Hi guys! Hi students! Welcome to another episode of E-Lesson Mo for the subject Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person. So for today's episode, we're going to study the holistic and partial point of view. Alright? So kung ready ka na, let's proceed. So for our learning objectives, we will analyze the philosophical tools and processes, and we will distinguish holistic perspective from partial point of view. But before that, let us just have a short recap of what we have studied in our previous episode. So, from our previous episode, we studied the meaning, origin, characteristics, and the branches of philosophy. And we learned that the word philosophy comes from the two Greek words philos, which means love, and sophia, which means wisdom. And therefore, philosophy is a love of wisdom. And philosophy can be defined as the study that uses human reason to investigate the ultimate causes, reasons, and principles which governs all things, right? And philosophy is a distinct area of knowledge with its own goals, concerns, and ways of doing things. In addition, philosophy is divided into several branches, namely aesthetics, epistemology, ethics, metaphysics, and political philosophy. And philosophy can also be seen as a framework, as an examination of knowledge, and as a discipline. So, philosophy is concerned with the deepest and biggest questions in life. Alright? So, for this episode, our first objective is to study the philosophical tools and processes. So, in philosophy, philosophy as a science is also a systematized body of knowledge, right? But unlike other sciences, in other sciences they employ observation and experimentation to prove their theories. In philosophy, we uses what? We uses reason to arrive at a certain knowledge or truth. Alright? And at the onset, Greek philosophers gave us a hint on how to use our intellect to understand realities around us. The tools that they frequently utilize are the following. Okay? So, number one is the philosophical questions. Alright? So, philosophical questions. Why? Philosophy was born because of ignorance. Okay? If one is ignorant, he asks questions. And if he keeps on questioning, the more knowledge he acquires. Di ba kapag may hindi tayo alam, tinatanong natin. Kapag may hindi tayo nauunawaan, naintindihan, tinatanong natin. Okay? So, in our daily struggles, we really need to ask questions. Okay? It can be simple, serious, and deep questions that we have to understand, that we have to grapple with. Okay? So, a philosopher is like a child who has an inquisitive mind who never stops asking questions and finding answers. Okay? So, di ba ang mga bata, madaming tanong yan kasi marami pang hindi naiintindihan. Okay? So, in philosophy, ganun din. Alright? So, sabi nga, the more questions, the more knowledge na ma-acquire tayo. Alright? So, in addition, we have to identify the process or cause, then go through the process. Okay? And finally, the consequences that may be or that may provide answers or may lead us to repeat the process again. So, in philosophy, it is all about questions and answer. Okay? So, by using these philosophical questions, alright, nagkakaroon tayo ng knowledge, nagkakaroon tayo ng information, no? So, therefore, philosophy, it is, under this philosophical question, philosophy is all about question and answer, okay? It is concerned with the deepest and biggest questions in life, alright? Okay, so one common approach or method in philosophical question is the Socratic method. So, what is this Socratic method? So, Socratic method is also known as method of Elenchus, the eclectic method, or the Socratic debate. It is a form of cooperative argument or argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and to draw out ideas and underlying presuppositions. Alright? So, may nagtatanong, may sasagot, no? Actually, sa law school, ito yung gamit namin, ano? So, we use this kind of method, the Socratic method, in recitation. So, our professor, meron silang hawak na class card and then bubunot sila doon and kung sino yung mapili nila, mabunot nila, tatawagin nila, and then they will start asking questions. And of course, sino natawag, sasagutin nila yung tanong. And they should give their ideas and whatever na yung tinatanong nung professor. Okay? So, number 2, we have logical reasoning. So, ano naman yung logical reasoning? Alright? So, logical reasoning in philosophy, it is the process of thinking about something in a logical way in order to form a conclusion or judgment. So, let's say for example, okay, we use deductive reasoning. Okay, so example, premise number 1, all human beings are mortal. Right? Premise number 2, but the president of the Philippines is a human being. And therefore, in conclusion, therefore, the president of the Philippines is mortal. Okay? So, you see, we use deductive reasoning. So, ano ba yung deductive reasoning? It is a general to specific. General truth to specific truth. In other words, from universal to particular. So, galing siya sa broad or general and then hanggang sa makarating tayo sa specific. Dito sa example natin, sa premise 1, kung mapapansin nyo, binanggit dito, all human beings. So, very general, di ba? And hanggang sa, in premise 2, we use the President of the Philippines. So, when we say the President of the Philippines, we are referring to only one person. So, from the human being as a general, we go to the specific, which is the President of the Philippines. Okay? So, this is an example of logical reasoning. So, deductive reasoning. In contrast, we have inductive reasoning. So, ano naman yung inductive reasoning? Alright? So, baliktad naman nun. So, inductive reasoning begins with a particular to universal argument. So, from specific to general. So, bigyan tayo ng example. Okay? So, premise. Ito yung premise natin. Okay? Student A, B, C, D, E, F are wearing school IDs. Alright? So, dito pa lang sa premise na to, nakita nyo na. So, very specific yung nauna nating binanggit. Si student A, B, C, D, E, F. O pwede natin sabihin si student Ana, si Ben, so on and so forth. Okay? Unlike dun sa kanina, nagsimula siya sa all human beings. Diba? Sa deductive. So, baliktad naman siya. So, ito yung naging conclusion. Therefore, all students are wearing ID. Okay? Napunta naman siya sa general, or the broader sense. Okay? So, student A, B, C, D, E, F are wearing school ID. Therefore, all students are wearing ID. Okay? So, here we are taught to arrive at a certain truth or knowledge in a logical process. Ano po? The above example or this example shows the logical process wherein by reasoning, one arrives at a certain truth or knowledge. Okay? So, logic starts with the origin of ideas, terms, propositions, or premises, syllogism, etc. And these terms are the basic structure of argument. Alright? So, let us proceed. Okay? So, nabasa niyo na ba or napakinggan yung story ng The Six Blind Men and the Elephant? So kung hindi pa, so panoorin natin itong story. Alright? So, let's start.
The Blind Men and the Elephant by John Godfrey Saxe. It was 6 men of Hindustan to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant, and happening to fall against his broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, "God bless me, but the elephant is very like a wall." The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, "Ho, what have we here? So very round and smooth and sharp. To me 'tis mighty clear this wonder of an elephant is very like a spear." The third approached the animal, and happening to take the squirming trunk within his hands, thus boldly up and spake, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a snake." The fourth reached out his eager hand and felt about the knee. "What most this wondrous beast is like is mighty plain," quoth he. "'Tis clear enough the elephant is very like a tree." The fifth, who chanced to touch the air, said, "Even the blindest man can tell what this resembles most. Deny the fact who can. This marvel of an elephant is very like a fan." The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, than seizing on the swinging tail that fell within his scope, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a rope." And so these men of Hindustan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong.
Alright, so I hope na narinig at naintindihan nyo yung the story of the six blind men and the elephant, So, to summarize, merong anim na tao, blind sila, and they are, kumbaga, they are asked to determine ano ba ang itsura ng elephant. Bulag nga sila, di ba? So, kanya-kanya sila ng hinawakang parts ng elephant, and kanya-kanya yung interpretation nila. Sa huli, may tumama ba sa kanila? So, wala. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? So, this is related to our next topic or next discussion. Okay? So, earlier, we have discussed the processes and tools of philosophy. Number one is the philosophical questions, and number two is the logical reasoning. So those two are the processes or tools used in philosophy. So let's proceed. So i-connect na natin tong the story of the six blind men and the elephant. Alright? So the question is, what does this story or situation imply about our understanding of life and answering our perennial problems? No? So, ano ba ang gustong ipakahulugan ng story ito, ano, sa atin, sa pananaw natin, sa pagsagot natin sa mga problema sa ating buhay? Alright? So, pag-aralan natin, what are the philosophers' ways of looking at things? Alright? So, ano ba ang paraan ng isang philosopher sa pagtingin niya sa isang bagay? No? Paano ba siya tumitingin sa isang bagay o pangyayari o sitwasyon? Alright? So, let us first discuss this holistic thinking. Right? So, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng holistic thinking? Okay, so holistic thinking refers to a perspective that considers large-scale patterns in system. This is often described as looking at the big picture. It is looking at the big picture when describing and analyzing a situation or problem. Okay, tinitingnan mo na yung big picture, tinitingnan mo yung malaking picture, the general sense of a situation or a problem. Let's say, for example, so this is a subdivision, right? This is subdivision or a residential area. Okay? So, kapag tinanong kayo to how you will describe, so definitely your description must be based on describing the subdivision as a whole. Alright? So, in other words, a holistic perspective requires an individual to have an open mindset and an ability to get the general sense or impression regarding a situation. Alright? So, kung makikita ninyo, ano ba yung subdivision, ano bang bumubuo dyan? Sabihin niyo mga bahay, di ba? Tao, sakyan, okay? And so on and so forth. Okay? That makes up the whole subdivision. Alright? Now, on the other hand, we have this partial thinking. Ano naman yung ibig sabihin ng partial thinking? Ano naman po ang ibig sabihin ng partial thinking? Alright. So, partial thinking focuses on a specific aspect of a situation. A particular view is an important component in analytic thinking, as an individual focuses on certain areas or aspects of a problem in order to understand it. Okay, so kung kanina, halimbawa, meron tayong subdivision, di ba? So, ito naman, this is a residential house. Alright? So, ito ay isang bahay. Okay, so from a subdivision or residential area, we have this house. A house which is part of the whole subdivision. No? A single component. So, for the partial analysis or point of view or perceptions, it is limited to one thing or some parts only. Alright? So, in short, your conclusions are made by looking at the limited aspects or sides of the situation or problem. Okay? So, kanina, kung makikita ninyo, yung story ng six blind men and the elephant, because of their limitation, po, yung kanilang paningin ay wala. So, nung hinawakan nila, kanya-kanya silang interpretation. They focus only on specific aspect or specific parts or part of the elephant kung saan nila hinawakan. Di ba may nagsabi, it is like a tree, a snake, a fan, etc. No? So, ganun yung partial thinking. Nakukuha ba natin, class? No? So, it is only limited to one thing or some parts only. Unlike the holistic thinking, we see it as a whole. Alright? When we say describe describe an elephant, masasabi mo yung specific parts niya that make up that form parts of the elephant, of an elephant. Okay? So, ganun po yung pagkakaiba ng partial thinking and holistic thinking. Okay? So, holistic thinking and partial thinking, no, has a different or these two different views with two different references. Alright? So, ayan, meron tayo example. Ano? This point of views, ano, yung holistic and partial, this can be best reflected. Pwede natin ito makita using this scenario inside the classroom. No? So, sa loob ng classroom, there is someone who sees the bigger picture and somebody who gives emphasizes on details. Ano? So, meron diyang estudyante, meron diyang mga bata na they can see the bigger picture. So, they uses holistic thinking. On the other hand, meron din naman diyang detail-oriented. So, nakafocus lang siya sa specific detail. Ano? So, both views give us reality that we can look into and come up with reflection or wisdom. No? Or in the other way around, we may say that just because you're right, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Ano? So, iba lang yung pananaw niya sa pananaw mo. Iba lang yung pagtingin niya sa pagtingin mo. Iba lang yung paraan niya kung paano mo tumingin sa isang bagay kaysa sa'yo. Okay? Sabi nga, just because you're right, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Alright? You just have or haven't seen life from my side. Di ba? Kapag hindi natin alam kung paano mag-isip yung isang tao, kapag kinakausap natin siya, hindi natin alam yung pinanggagalingan niya, maaaring hindi natin siya maintindihan. No? Pero hindi ibig sabihin na mali siya. Iba-iba lang yung ating perception. Iba-iba lang yung ating ginagamit na thinking or process of thinking. Alright? Iba-iba yung ating perception sa buhay. Okay? So, I hope clear yan sa atin. Ano? So, balikan natin yung question kanina. What does this story or situation imply about our standing of life and answering our perennial problem? Okay? So, balikan natin yung question natin kanina. What does this story or situation imply about our understanding of life in answering our perennial problems? Right. So, when we venture into philosophizing, class, we see the greater perspective of things and see the ultimate purpose or reason of our existence. So, nakikita natin yung ultimate purpose or reason bakit tayo naririto, bakit tayo nag-exist. Most of us are so engrossed with individual trees and we miss the whole forest as the saying goes. Ano? Minsan nakatuon tayo sa individuality, sa specific aspects na nakakalimutan na natin na tayo ay bahagi ng lipunan, na tayo ay bahagi ng isang malaking community, no? So sabi nga, We are so engrossed with individual trees, no? So, specific trees, nakafocus tayo sa ating, na nakakalimutan natin, we miss the whole forest. Nakakalimutan natin na merong isang malaking forest kung saan parte tayo. Okay? So, um, my dear students, the story intends to encourage us to develop perspective awareness. So remember that each one of us is just one in the many. Isa lang tayo sa nakararami. We have to keep in mind that we need to be aware that each one of us create a unique view of the world based on personal experiences, language, and culture. So, iba-iba tayo ng background, iba-iba tayo ng experiences, ng culture, ng language. So, this story kanina, yes, each blind man had a limited perspective on the objective truth. But it doesn't mean objective truth isn't there. Right? So, they are partially correct, although wala sila o hindi sila lahat ay tama. Iba-iba sila ng pananaw. Okay? So, a true Filipino embodies the core values of makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, and makabansa. So, sana gamitin natin ito. Sa buhay natin itong mga core values ng DepEd. Makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, at makabansa. So, let us always remember that we as an individual is part of a whole system. Parte tayo ng lipunan, parte tayo ng komunidad. So, bawat isa sa atin, kung tayo ay magiging mabuting at kapaki-pakinabang na mamamayan at sa buhay natin, itong ating core values, ay lahat tayo makakaasa na ang komunidad natin, ang lipunan natin, ay magiging maayos at maganda. I hope na marami kayong natutunan. And therefore, we will proceed to our assessment. Alright? This is just a simple assessment ng ating pinag-aralan ngayon. So, please answer these questions. Alright? So, number 1, it is a perspective that considers the bigger picture or when looking at problems and situation. Alright? So, A, partial, B, holistic, C, modular, D, conventional. So, what's your answer? If your answer is B, holistic, you are correct. Alright? Next, is it true or false? The experience of doubt is one of the reasons why people philosophize. Alright? Kapag may duda tayo, anong ginagawa natin? Nagtatanong tayo, diba? So, the experience of doubt, is it one reason why people philosophize? True or false? So, if your answer is true, you are correct. Dito kapag hindi nga tayo, hindi tayo sigurado sa isang bagay, tatanong tayo, inulit natin. For clarification, for verification, diba? So, let's proceed. Question number 3. It is considered as the process of thinking about something in a logical way in order to form a conclusion or judgment. A, reasoning, B, proposition, C, argument, D, reflection. So, if your answer is A, reasoning, you are correct. Okay? So, next, evaluate syllogism if it is valid or not. Okay? So, premise 1. Some multiple choice questions are tricky. Premise number 2. No easy questions are tricky. For our conclusion, therefore, some multiple question or multiple choice questions are not easy. So, is it valid or not? Remember yung ating logical reasoning? Okay? So, the answer is valid. Alright? So, bago tayo magtapos, recap lang natin yung pinag-aralan natin ngayon. So, we have studied the philosophical tools and processes. That is, the philosophical questions and logical reasoning. We also studied the philosopher's way of looking at things. That is, the holistic thinking and partial thinking. Alright? So, I hope naintindihan po natin yung ating episode sa araw na ito. At magpatuloy tayo sa mga susunod pa para mas maunawaan natin ang ating subject. So, once again, this is your teacher, Teacher Raymar. Thank you for listening, and thank you for time sa pag-aaral. Nagtuloy-tuloy lang tayo para sa ating pangarap. Maraming salamat. Goodbye. See you next episode.